The never seen 17, John Cena. He has won the championship in every single month of the calendar, apart from December. Interesting, that's also the month he's retiring in. So, guys, I hope your week was good and welcome to episode 4. And you know what? It really is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. At the time of recording, the big day is 3 weeks away, and it's amazing to see lots of decorations going up everywhere. And it is Christmas, to be fair, that I'm going to lead with this week. You know, I thought I'd shake it up a bit. As this past week, I made the decision to not do Christmas this year. Outside of a few things with my church and linking up with friends that I'll do anyways, I'm not doing the holiday really. The reasons are financial. I won't bore you with the details, but this year has been awful for me, and I don't have the finances to do it. I also am a grown man with no kids, and I feel I've been kind of blessed this year with lots of stuff that I've already been able to do, and so I have to put my adult hat on, as boring as that sounds, and know when to say no. Now look, I love Christmas, and we'll listen to the music, maybe visit the odd Christmas market or two, but in terms of presents and cards and buying loads of, let's be real, it's tat, for the home, I'm out, as they say on Dragon's Den, for 2025. Now, there's a lot in the news, well, the bottom half of the internet anyway, about how Christmas doesn't feel like Christmas anymore, that companies are going out of their way to kind of erase Christmas. But what does that really look like? Now, every shop I've been into in the past few weeks is decked out with lots of Christmas stuff. The baubles are back, the nutcrackers too, and everything from the environmentally friendly tinsel and much more. And I'll tell you what has happened though, is that Christmas has kind of fallen to the lows of Halloween and even Valentine's Day, with a kind of incessant amount of what the shops call kind of nice, kind of fancy words like trinkets and stocking fillers, but to you and I, let's call them for what they are. They're shit. Let's be real, it's shit. This year, a major problem I had with Halloween, going back to that holiday, was that a lot of it was just meme and pop culture stuff. At the high end, it had almost become like runway cosplay. The outfits being very overly sexualised for the women, including the children, which, whatever, I think that's bonkers. And they're just bland and boring for the guys. Like, gone are the days of Halloween being a scary holiday, it felt. As, like, with everything commercialism has made it, so you have to keep up the Joneses, so it came about kind of how much you had in your bank account. And Christmas has been going through the same treatment for the past 10 years, and perhaps I'm just a bit late to the party. And now this is mainly because I'm one of those people who decide to reuse decorations every year. They don't blow up, people don't use them after like a few years. Plus, having lived in a flat with a cat, and no, I'm not Dr. Seuss, but having lived like that for years, you get used to the fact that cats, sadly, they love to destroy Christmas decorations, so you kind of know not to bother. Christmas for me, it falls into one of a few categories usually. So you got religious stuff, you got Santa and his story, and then what are dubbed sort of premium. Now, religious is quite straightforward, really. As you got to think of stuff like nativity sets, angels, all things Joseph and Mary, and the stars. Santa and his story is again very simple, as that will be Santa, his elves, reindeer, and it's usually where you find a lot of the sweet treats like candy canes. As the story of Santa, let's be real, it's aimed at children after all. And then the last one is sort of hard to find, but you kind of know it when you see it. It's a lot of stuff that's kind of gold, silver, or white maybe. And sort of is Christmas, but in a less in-your-face way. The stuff often does have stars or candles on it, so it can sometimes fall into the religious category I mentioned before. But not always, not always. There's also a kind of final smaller category I'm going to call kind of fun characters. These are things like the gnomes, snowmen, critters, etc. They sometimes get tied in with Santa's story, but they are also kind of their own individual thing. So what's the problem, you ask? Well, the problem I'm having now is what I'm seeing is lots of stuff that doesn't really fall into any of the above mentioned categories. And I am, by the way, instantly dismissing this kind of weird, sexy adult, slay me Santa kind of thing. I think that's just weird and creepy. I'm dismissing all that stuff, right? But what I'm talking about is the amount of Christmas stuff that is just done so lazily. And it's especially noticeable from the big brands, as the likes of Disney, The Simpsons, or DC, or Pokemon will just add a Christmas hat or box or something and jack up the price for a special Christmas edition. This is also true of food, as they seem to go mad just rebranding anything and everything for Christmas. The prices go up too. And then we have this new sort of humour category. That seems to just be the cringiest stuff known to man, designed by the Live, Laugh, Love Brigade, of course, as every Christmas market is full of some hipster type selling you handmade, by sweatshop children in China, signs or doormats with ridiculous phrases on them. When did any of this tat become Christmas? Talking of Christmas markets, I did go recently to one near me in Beckenham, and I have to say that while I appreciated that it was free to enter and it was easy to get to, it was also not very busy, I still left a little bit disappointed. I have been to a number of Christmas markets in my life, and I find them kind of so weird how they're popped up and all just equate to a street, square, or park, just selling stuff you wouldn't give an enemy, it seems. And they are all the fucking same. Like selling bratwurst for a tenner, hot chocolate for £6 a pop, and Temu keyrings bought in bulk with some bullshit phrase on, again for a tenner. The biggest sin really though is the amount of stuff that just isn't Christmas. A lot of these Christmas markets are just regular markets but with jacked up prices. And yes, I get that the vendors, they pay more to be there. But kind of when your stock comes from Temu for pennies, my sympathy kind of stops. And then we get to the food and drink. And it's a total emptying of the wallet here. Hot chocolates at £5 or £7 a pop, like I said before. Even tea can regularly be over £3 a cup for a product that, I remind you all, that is 95% hot water, water that we get for free. I don't drink alcohol, and at these places I'm forever grateful for my decision not to, as I couldn't imagine spending 10 to 15 quid on one drink to sit on a bench in the rain, as God forbid any of these places have covered seating. Yeah, we're in England, a country where between about September, October to March, it pretty much doesn't stop raining, but every Christmas market seems to think it's taking place in the Bahamas. And I get that a lot of these items are treat items, and not a necessity of course, but I just don't think they help themselves by pricing themselves so high. Money is tight for a lot of people over here now. That's thanks to our awful government. And Christmas is a time of year where people can really misprioritise their finances. I saw a statistic recently that 27% of young people cannot afford to buy presents for Christmas. And 1 in 12 people will be putting Christmas spending solely on credit cards. And they've got nothing in their bank accounts. They are taking out credit to just pay for Christmas, which I just find insane. And even amongst the people who won't be going to debt, over 40% say they will struggle to pay for Christmas. And this to me is just bonkers, and it's where we have really missed the real meaning behind Christmas. It is a celebration, of course, and it's a chance to spend time with your friends and your family and all your loved ones, and to reflect really, perhaps going to the church, and to reflect on the year that you've had, and also the year that lies ahead. But more and more nowadays, it's being forced to become a massive consumer affair, and that's just a bit sad. And of course the retailers know this, as they roll out sale after sale, which are just getting worse and worse. Remember the year people were fighting over televisions and Asda's and Currys on Black Friday because they actually got discounted decently? Nowadays stuff is 10 or 20% off, and that's only because companies raise their prices, this is proven, about a month before Black Friday, so they're only returning it to the original price anyway. And we will look at sales another time perhaps, but back to consumerism in general. There are 7-year-olds out there getting new iPhones. Like, who the fuck are you calling at 7 years old? Parents putting PS5s and credit cards to just isolate little Chardonnay and Portkey even more from the real world. People don't need half the stuff that gets bought for them, especially children. No kid needs an iPhone to be able to continue to exist. Most kids don't care about these things. They just want to play with their friends and be silly and goofy and just be a kid. We don't need them in this world of being trapped on the screen like all of us. Let them enjoy their time. And this is being said by someone who doesn't like children. And look, I'm not saying to not buy or do anything. I'm not a total Grinch. But I just think we need to reduce Christmas down to what we can actually afford and to what people actually need. Kids don't need more toys not to play with, and adults don't need new perfume to not use. All the junk and joke gifts that make people laugh for 5 minutes before being stuck in a drawer in a loft before being, thrown out a few months later. It's just a waste of time and money. Save that money and that time that you spend getting the item to maybe suggest a coffee morning with the person, or do an activity in the new year when things are cheaper and way less busy. Another thing you can do, by the way, is to buy and support your local charity shops. It's a great way to gift things. Set yourself a budget maybe of £10, £20, £30 to really challenge yourself. That way you get to gift give and charity give at the same time. It's the thought that counts, to be fair, is really true to most people. You could even hand make gifts. I often hand make cards for people and it goes down better than the sanitised store-bought cards in my opinion. So look, hopefully I've given you a bit of food for thought, but let me know your thoughts on Christmas. Like, are you cutting down on your spending for it? Like, share and subscribe for more folks. And like I've said on my socials, all we really need for Christmas this year is Labour out.
Ooh, somebody stop me!
So, moving away from Christmas and back to the world of WWE and wrestling now, and obviously the main subject this week is who is the masked figure who interfered in the men's War Games match this past weekend. At time of recording, we are before this week's edition of SmackDown, but Raw saw the entire vision, including Paul Heyman, deny any knowledge of things that went down at the event. And Adam Pearce, of course, is still on the search for some answers. The internet seems to believe that is going to be Austin Theory. Other names have been thrown around, such as Montez Ford, Seth Rollins himself, and even, weirdly of all, Zoe Stark. But you know what I think they should do? I think they should let this play out, I think they should cook with this. I think a masked attacker is not a new thing in wrestling, but you usually get the reveal straight away, or if not, kind of the night after on Raw. But a mystery is a good thing in wrestling, as it will make people tune in week after week to find out kind of the answer to this. Now, they can't let this go on for too long, crucially, but I definitely think they can get a month's worth of television out of this, which is perfect for them, as that's when Punk defends, finally, his world title against Bron Breakker on Raw. So, who do I think it is? Right, so I think the Austin Theory, the Austin Theory, the ATT, is kind of on the button with this. But I'm also willing to take bets that maybe they themselves don't know just yet who it's going to be. Because all the people analysing the footage, going through frame by frame and saying this person's like 5'10" and this person's like 6'2" or whatever it is, they need to remember something very, very important. They don't need the person who climbed the cage at Survivor Series to be the person that they reveal it to be. Obviously, as long as they don't go stupid and have it be like Omos or Zelina Vega for the reveal, it can work for anybody, as the body type is quite a standard one in WWE and in sports in general. They could even say that there's someone working under orders of the attacker. There's kind of lots they could do here, and it's actually very exciting for once, so props to them. I mean, part of me does think that Seth will be revealed as the mastermind of it all, even if he wasn't the attacker, but I hope that this doesn't come true. If anyone does get revealed as a mastermind, I think it would make sense for it to be Logan Paul. Now, look, Logan was the newest member of the Vision. He only actually got officially confirmed as a member on the December 1st episode of Raw. And he kind of has had no connection previously to the other members. And him being the mastermind and new leader here kind of makes sense. Because then he has his muscles in the Bron Brons to do his dirty work for him. He also, then if Austin Theory is kind of added, he seemed like the perfect guy to team up with Logan and be the bitch boy, to him. I'll get a lot of hate for this, I know I will, because Logan Paul's a very controversial individual for stuff he's done inside WWE and outside of it. But being real, Logan is someone who should be a big part of WWE going forward, and they should use Seth's injury as a reason to just push Logan to the moon, in my opinion. He's a ready-made star who is genuine heat, and he can more than go between the ropes. He also has a fan base outside of WWE that he brings into the product each time. But overall, I will just say, fans need to let this play out. And if it's done right, this could be a phenomenal payoff for them, and it could properly shake up an already interesting main event scene on Raw. And now look, something else I'm loving at the moment, and this is just a quick little bit, is them giving us the first teaser on the main roster of Nattie Neidhart. I loved the Cobra Kai type promo package they showed on Raw. It was very different stuff from the WWE. Although I think they need to do this before she beat Becky, it does give an answer as to why she took so long to get ready to challenge Becky once again. They need more stuff like this, not just for the women, but for the mid-card in general, as it makes things feel important. So again, good job WWE. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah. And now, look, I saw many posts and reports regarding this matter. So apparently they want to do Roman versus Cody at WrestleMania again. Yet, for the third time in less than 5 years, we've ended up back at this same well. And it got me thinking, is WWE out of ideas? The creative in 2025, can best be summed up as uninspired. We've had lots of nonsensical things happen, such as John Cena's heel turn, and whatever that Mania main event was meant to be. We've had champions hold titles without defences, SmackDown be mostly unwatchable, end-of-life WCW level garbage, and the tag division be pushed off the show for another boring stable led by Seth Rollins. And it's the same group of people who are getting these main event spots too. Despite there being so much young talent ready to step up, why does anyone want to see Cody and Roman go at it again? We shouldn't be normalising feuds getting multiple WrestleMania matches. And I know, obviously, Cody and Roman aren't the only two to ever do this. We've obviously had, Taker and Shawn do this. Taker and Triple H had a couple as well, as have obviously Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. But in my opinion, this just isn't a way to show growth. It is in fact the opposite of this. I mean, could you imagine, a few years after WrestleMania 3, if Andre was willed out to face Hulk Hogan once again? For me, it's part of a bigger problem, systemic problem in the WWE, as their year is just becoming very, very predictable, and they fill the year with events that intentionally are designed to not be exciting beyond the base level of their attraction. Now let me explain. Take something like the Elimination Chamber. It's a fun concept, it always has been, but they use it only to determine the number one contender spot for the less important title at Mania every year. Because remember, that main title shot, that gets chosen already by the winners of the Royal Rumble matches. And that's a month before, so the Chamber winners are kind of getting sloppy seconds. It's also a match that's filled with main event talent, so there's a very small chance of seeing a surprise in here, because everything kind of gets locked in this company months or sometimes years in advance, it feels like. Money in the Bank is also full of main event talent, as is King and Queen of the Ring. War Games, promise, it's my last comment on it for a while, is also a main event talent-filled match. And beyond the uniqueness of seeing the two rings, it's sort of pointless, as there's no stakes, no championships, nothing kind of continues after it. I mean, at least this year they kind of used it to get Bron Breakker a title match. Everything just feels like it's designed to be boring, kind of no variety. And so you can always work out where stuff's going. So with this Cody vs Roman match, if it's true, it now means that anything Cody does for the next 4 months is pointless, as we know he won't lose that title until at least WrestleMania. And then for me, that becomes a problem. Because if Cody wins at WrestleMania, we're just getting more of the same. If Roman wins at WrestleMania, then we're going back to the guy who we made a big deal of getting the belt off of, because we don't see the belt when he got the belt. And, his second run with this belt will need to be also a long reign. So we're most likely not going to see another title change till probably the next year's WrestleMania. So, for me, this lack of jeopardy as well, it just makes me want to turn off, as a champion needs to feel like he's in jeopardy, and to get the fan reaction, either sympathy for a babyface, or delight for a villain when they lose. It also just shows that they have no faith in their full-time roster on SmackDown, to be deadly honest, but the fact they feel they've got to bring a part-time guy, in for this match. There's so many people who they could use to kind of add some energy and excitement into that main event scene on SmackDown, and they just won't do it. The ships apparently sailed on Drew once again, and then you got Aleister Black, who came out of a feud with Damian Priest looking hot as hell, and has done nothing since. Jacob Fatu is either injured or don't want to be there anymore, let's be real, the jury's out on that one, and they got rid of Braun Strowman, who was always a solid hand in the title picture scene. They've done nothing with R-Truth / Ron Killing, except turn him back into the comedy act, which he's good at, but they did tease a bigger deal with, obviously, R-Truth doing a split personality gimmick with Ron Killings. And it just seems this is what happens every time that bastard Road Dogg gets a hold of the show. They need to find a way to get the very talented mid-card guys onto these shows and moving up. I mean, why not make one of the chamber matches for the title for a change? Or make Money in the Bank or King of the Ring only for people who have never won a world championship before? And maybe gift a spot in one of the matches to an NXT star. Give a Rumble win to a true underdog, not a returning former world champion. They need to find a way to break the mould, because at this rate, we'll be going into Manias 43, 44, 45, 46 with the same bloody card as we've had this year. But look, that's it, guys, for another week. I want to experiment with a couple of shorts next week, and I want to get the sub count up. So please, if you can, subscribe and make sure you're commenting and liking these videos. And I'll do those shorts alongside a regular episode that will drop on Friday once again. Thanks to everyone who's watched so far, and I hope you all have a blessed week. Now, get out of here before I set Nattie Neidhart on you.
This is out! The referee didn't check. Promise might be knocked out. Passing out from the pain. Nattie Neidhart